really seem to enjoy the savory recipes that I've been doing lately, so today I am making a green noodle casserole from the 1950s. I will include the full recipe in the description down below. The recipe comes from this book, The ABC of Casseroles. This is a Peter Pauper press book, and you know how much I love these. I will talk about this book a little bit later in the video. You're going to need some green noodles first off. I had a little bit of trouble finding these. I did manage to get them at Mark's, so if you're local to me, that is where you can look for them, and I used the Mrs. Miller's brand. I'll go ahead and include a link to those so you can see kind of like what you're looking for. So you want to start by cooking your green noodles in some boiling salted water. Normally you would cook these noodles for 12 to 15 minutes according to the package. I went for 10 minutes because these are gonna be baked in a casserole. My green noodles here, they're not looking super green. They're looking a little gray, but they're spinach noodles. And basically you just mix all of your ingredients together. I could mix this in the casserole dish. I personally like the extra room of mixing this together in a mixing bowl and then pouring it into a casserole dish. So to your noodles, add your diced ham. I'm using diced ham from the grocery store, but of course this would be an excellent way to use up leftover ham if you have it. You might even still have some left from Easter in your freezer. Perfect way to use that up. I have some grated Swiss cheese. Gonna give that like a little pre-mix here. This mixing bowl is gonna get very full. The full recipe of this makes 12 servings. So I'm cutting this in half. Like I said, I'll put the full recipe in the description, but this is a lot of green noodles. You better invite some friends over. I've got just regular sour cream. Sometimes when a vintage recipe includes sour cream, it will say commercial sour cream. And I think that is just so that you don't confuse it for like sour milk or soured milk or buttermilk, which is also sometimes an ingredient in recipes. So I think that was just kind of like the way that they differentiated. And then I have half a cup of heavy cream. It's called sweet cream in the recipe, but it is heavy cream. Sometimes you can use half and half. There's some flour. I'm gonna sprinkle that because I don't want it to clump up. The only spices in this recipe, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I often think these recipes start out a little under-seasoned. There is ham in here, so it's going to be a little bit salty from the ham, and I'm just gonna remain hopeful that that's enough to flavor this. I like to make these recipes straight through, at least on the first try, these vintage recipes, just to see how they would turn out. Give that a very good mix. Looking like a casserole. I love a casserole. So this looks good to me. It says to put this into a well-buttered casserole. This is the one I'm going to use. I haven't buttered it yet. If you save your butter wrappers, this is a great thing to do with them. I didn't save my butter wrappers, so I just have a little lump of softened butter that I'm using. I think that's an old-fashioned trick that some people are aware of, but maybe sometimes you forget about. You know what? There's no topping or anything on this, so I'm just making this straight through because it's my first time, but something else I would do is I would probably add some like buttered breadcrumbs to the top, or maybe some like French fried onions. That would be fantastic. A little beautiful casserole dish. Smooth that out. This was just about the perfect size. So to bake this in a well-buttered casserole dish for 1 hour in a moderate oven. Moderate oven just means 350 degrees. That is another thing that you'll often see in vintage recipes. It will say hot oven or moderate oven, and it won't necessarily give a temperature. So that is usually a safe bet, like right around 350 degrees. So let's talk about this book. This is the book that I'm using today, The ABC of Casseroles. It was published in 1954 by Peter Pauper Press. If you are one of my cookbook collecting friends, you know about these books, these cute little books. I just think they're so adorable. They're always like beautifully illustrated. They have these great dust covers. This did prompt me to look up a little bit more information on Peter Pauper Press. It started back in 1928. It is still in operation today, and it is still family owned. So the goal of this company was to publish books and gifts sold at a price even a pauper could afford. So these are, you know, at the time, of course, these were very affordable books. If you have an entire set of these and they're in great condition, it's probably a little bit of a collector's item, especially if you're into collecting cookbooks like I am. This one is in pretty decent shape. I was very happy that it still had the dust cover on it and everything, and I only paid a couple of dollars for it. These are easily recognizable when you're searching for cookbooks because they're usually small. So like that's my hand by comparison. It's not much bigger than my hand. They are usually set in like a specific color scheme. I have a couple of these, and I have one that's like, you know, sort of a green theme. This was more of an orange theme, and they always have beautiful little illustrations in them. The recipes in this book, as indicated in the title, these are in alphabetical order. I think I have a few of these like ABCs of different things books. I think one is like the ABC of vegetables. The ones that I have, the illustrations are by Ruth McRae. I don't know much about her. I should do a little research on Ruth because I love what she does with these. So just a little bit of this like opening to the reader section that I wanted to share with you. A casserole, a tossed green salad, and a steaming coffee make an elegant and sophisticated dinner. Add a fancy dessert and you have a feast. I couldn't agree more. Although the coffee, I don't typically drink coffee with any meals except for breakfast, but I think it was kind of a pretty common thing, especially at the time that this cookbook was published. I'll take a steaming coffee though. If you're gonna bake me a casserole, I'll drink the coffee with it. I'm not gonna be ungrateful. Each letter is represented by a few recipes. Every time a new letter is introduced, you get this great little illustration at the top, and there's usually some kind of like little poem or verse. Joking and laughing and singing a song helps the digestion jiggle along. This book, let's see, it has right around 60 pages, quite a few casseroles in there. And some different ones. Like when I think of casserole, there's usually some kind of formula that like goes along with it. It's like a grain or a noodle of some kind, maybe a meat, some vegetables, and then something like a sauce or cream soup to like bind it all together. Some of these, you know, they're a little bit different than you might think of when you think casserole. Like this one for family leftovers, this one's just a little different. It does have the meat, it does have some onions in it, and some potatoes. So instead of like a rice or pasta or noodle, it's like potatoes. This one almost sounds kind of like a scalloped potato with whatever kind of meat that you have left over. You probably know that casseroles are a great way to use up leftovers, especially after, I think, big holiday meals. So Thanksgiving, you've got all this turkey, make a turkey noodle casserole, ham at Easter, you know, whatever you have, you can use those leftovers up, throw in and customize these things however you want, and you have a pretty good dinner. We've got some Kansas City Franks, hot dogs in a casserole, and then you saute some onions, some tomatoes, some vegetables. You pour it over the hot dogs and bake them. I think they had to start getting a little bit creative. And the last page says, this volume is designed, printed, and published at the office of the Peter Pauper Press, Mount Vernon, New York. And if you go to bookstores, I think especially like independent bookstores, you'll still find some of their products today. I was actually just looking at their Instagram account. They have things like journals, bookmarks, stationery, that kind of stuff. So, you know, maybe give them a visit, see what their offerings are today. But if you see one of these little Peter Pauper Press books out in the wild, you should definitely pick it up, add it to your collection. It's not only super fun to look through, but there are usually at least a few good recipes inside. She got a little toasty. The original recipe said to bake this for an hour. I ended up pulling this 5 minutes early, and I probably should have pulled it a little bit earlier. It got real toasty on top. Not that I mind, but I think if I would have left it in any longer, we could have been heading into burn territory. So just like with any recipe, really, just keep an eye on it. Your oven might be different from my oven, but it smelled absolutely incredible. Oh my gosh. The kitchen just smelled so warm and buttery and homey, and it's like that delicious warm dinner cooking kind of smell. I don't know how to describe it. Does anybody make a candle called warm dinner cooking? I'm very ready to try this. It looks toasty but good. I don't think it's going to be bad because the ingredients were pretty good. Nothing too unusual. So let's serve this up. This is very much a cut rather than a scoop. So you can see I'm cutting this with the edge of my spoon. This would be a good one to serve in squares, I think. Oh yeah, okay. You can see I've got a real crispy edge there, which I don't hate. And you can definitely tell a difference even in just the scent of this casserole that these are noodles and not like spaghetti. I guess when I say noodles, I mean like these are kind of more of like a homemade style egg noodle than like your box spaghetti. They have a little bit of a different feel to them. So do be aware of that, but I love noodles, I love pasta, I love all of those things. And I think I'm gonna love this. Not bad. Take another bite. I always want to say, let's add more salt, let's add more pepper. This just has like such a mild, delicious flavor. Something about that Swiss cheese mixed with the sour cream. I don't know that it needs a lot more seasoning. I tend to not like things too salty, but I think it's just about right. Okay, yeah, that was a good bite. I mean, they're all good bites, right? But I got like the perfect balance of like the Swiss cheese, the ham, and the noodles. This is not like an in-your-face, cheesy, salty, kind of like mac and cheese thing. This is more, it's not a kugel, but it's similar, I would say, if you've had something like that. Well, I'm still eating it, so I must like it, right? I think this is a great one. And just like with any casserole, I think you can kind of build on this if you would want. Great as is, but you could add more vegetables. You could switch up the meats that are in it. It's a little bit different as far as like a sauce or a base goes because it doesn't have any cream soup, which is very common in casseroles from like the 50s, 60s, 70s. If you're expecting that kind of thing, that's not what you're gonna get with this, but this is still delicious. The book is The ABCs of Casseroles, published in 1954. If you happen to love recipes and cookbooks from the 1950s, I have an entire playlist and I will link it right here. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love to make videos about food, vintage cookbooks, and retro recipes, so if you know someone who loves those things, please share this video with them. It really does help my channel grow by reaching a larger audience. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.